Lake Erie Foundation is a nonprofit organization with the goal of preserving and protecting the waters of Lake Erie. As advocates for the well-being of Lake Erie, one of Lake Erie Foundation's goals is to protect the lake from harmful effects of plastic pollution. We plan to do this by educating the public on the plastic issues and providing recommendations for positive change. Ultimately, we believe with a decrease in demand for single-use plastics and future legislation passed, single-use plastics will eventually be replaced with something more sustainable. The information we are sharing here is very concerning and is not embellished in any way. Most importantly, plastic in Lake Erie is bad. This is not where it belongs, and the plastic that is currently in Lake Erie is undoubtedly a problem. We're not here to completely denigrate the use of plastics as a whole. We're here to discuss what happens when improperly disposed of plastics end up in the lake. In fact, certain plastics are useful. According to the British Plastics Federation, some of their greatest traits include being lightweight, flexible, and durable. Some common applications for plastics include airplane parts, housing installation, and electronic components. Often, these components need to be durable and long-lasting. However, other common uses for plastic in single-use applications, like plastic grocery bags, plastic bottles, and food wrappers, are not a good use of plastic. In fact, the term single-use plastic is actually an oxymoron because you're using it once and it's completely contrary to why they were developed, to be lightweight, flexible, and importantly, durable. Nearly half of the 300 million tons of plastic produced each year were only used a few short minutes before they're tossed away into our lakes and landfills to sit for hundreds of years. The United Nations ranks plastic pollution as the second most dangerous threat to the global environment, only behind climate change. Plastic pollution is harming the environment, plastic pollution is harming Lake Erie, and plastic pollution is harming people. Plastic pollution in Lake Erie is negatively impacting all stakeholders, including those who receive their drinking water from Lake Erie, those that eat fish from Lake Erie, and those that make a living using Lake Erie for commercial purposes. The Great Lakes contain approximately 1/5 of the world's fresh water supply, and polluting Lake Erie with plastic undoubtedly has negative impacts on the people in the region and beyond. It's important that we explicitly define what a microplastic is. Microplastics are tiny pieces of plastic less than 5 millimeters in size that can be harmful to humans and the environment. Just for a size comparison, 5 millimeters is smaller than a grain of rice, which is approximately 6 millimeters long. These microplastics are everywhere. They've been found at the bottom of the ocean, and they've actually recently been found at the top of Mount Everest in snow samples. We know that they're in Lake Erie. These tiny microplastics are extremely hard to filter out of the water, and because plastics are purposely designed and created to be durable, they do not biodegrade. They simply remain in Lake Erie, causing harm. As you can see in this picture, there are so many different types, shapes, and sizes for plastics and microplastics that end up in Lake Erie. The term microplastics can further be broken down into primary and secondary microplastics. This is an important distinction to make because we need to understand exactly how these microplastics end up in their final state in Lake Erie. Primary microplastics, such as microbeads used in personal care products or the pellets used in plastics manufacturing, are intentionally manufactured small. There are companies that are actively making microplastics that end up in Lake Erie, and this is even before they're broken down into smaller pieces. Some of this is being regulated, like microbeads and bottled soap, but the manufacturing still occurs in other non-cosmetic products. Secondary microplastics are the consequence of one of plastic's most valued assets, its durability. They begin as larger discarded products that are only broken down, not biodegraded in the lake by sunlight and wave action. Over time, these fragments become smaller and smaller, and they will survive for hundreds of years. We know Lake Erie can have very rough waters, which is one of the causes of creating these secondary microplastics. Different plastics carry different chemicals into the lake. These chemically treated plastics are particularly harmful when ingested by humans. Regardless of the size, shape, form, type, any and all plastic harms Lake Erie and its stakeholders when it ends up there. Lake Erie may be the second smallest of the Great Lakes, yet it has the second highest level of microplastics. The amount of plastic in Lake Erie is shocking. As of 2018, there are over 100 million pieces of plastic in Lake Erie. That's about 18,000 pieces of plastic per square mile of water. The abundance of microplastics in Lake Erie is sadly similar to other parts of the world, and many people aren't aware of this information. The first level of harm is to Lake Erie itself, the aquatic life in the lake, and the lake's economic and business stakeholders. Microplastics can disrupt food webs and affect other animals in the Lake Erie ecosystem. We know that microplastics reduce the size, quality, and reproductive ability of fish. This negatively impacts the fishing businesses that rely on Lake Erie. According to Great Lakes Now, which is a Great Lakes-focused online newspaper, Ohio's Lake Erie sport fishing industry tops $1 billion annually. This is both a very important source of jobs and economic activity for the region, and it is negatively impacted by the plastic pollution in Lake Erie. Professor Sherry Mason, Sustainability Coordinator at Penn State Behrend, has detailed some of the first ways that microplastics can enter the food chain. She says that plastic has a chemical composition that smells like food for microorganisms like the sea worm, which are then eaten by fish, moving all the way up the food chain. These microplastics can transfer up the food chain many times via trophic transfer, which is when a predator ends up ingesting things that its prey has ingested previously. Fish can also end up with microplastics in their system through direct ingestion, and plastic in our fish means plastic in our food. Microplastics directly impact the Lake Erie ecosystem, and these consequences have immediate and long-term effects on the environment, the aquatic life, and the residents and users of the lake. It is estimated that people ingest anywhere from 39,000 to 52,000 microplastic particles per year. Do you have a credit or debit card with you? Imagine ingesting one of those cards worth of plastic every week. While microplastics are not exclusively found in Lake Erie's drinking water, they are extremely abundant in the drinking water from Lake Erie. Everyone that drinks water from Lake Erie is drinking plastic. There can be microplastic in any food or beverage made with Lake Erie water, and that includes the local beer brewed with tap water from Lake Erie. Plastics are made up of extremely hazardous chemicals, and microplastics attach to other chemicals, toxins, bacteria, and viruses that are all ingested by the people who use them. These chemicals include BPAs, styrene, bleach, perfume, flame retardants, phthalates, and many other harmful chemicals not intended for human consumption. In fact, they are what are called endocrine disruptors because they affect the natural chemical processes that occur in our bodies. These chemicals have now become a part of our lives from conception until death. Professor Mason has found that babies can ingest harmful chemicals from microplastics that their mothers have consumed while they're in the womb. The harmful effects of ingesting endocrine disruptors include the following three conditions. They are not simply a stomach ache or a cough. And just to reiterate, these chemicals make up and attach to the microplastics that all of us are ingesting from the water in Lake Erie. First, these chemicals cause decreased reproductive ability in men by causing a reduced sperm count. Phthalates, one of the endocrine disruptors, mimic estrogen in the bloodstream, causing lower testosterone levels in men, which cause a reduced sperm count. Additionally, this becomes a trait that is passed down generationally because the failure rates cause a change in the way that the gene is expressed without causing a change to the underlying genetic code. What that means is a father can pass along a low sperm count to his son, who could then have it decreased even further by consuming more phthalates. This is incredibly worrisome because, according to the CDC, there's a measurable level of phthalates in everybody's body right now. A second ill effect of these harmful chemicals is an increased risk of cancer. BPA, one of the endocrine disruptors, is a chemical that is known to make hormone receptor-positive breast cancer develop and grow, according to breastcancer.org. Finally, a third adverse effect of these endocrine disruptors are hormone imbalances. These hormone imbalances begin at conception and can cause developmental disabilities in children and an overall weakened immune system. As a society and as a species, we're burning the candle at both ends. We're reducing our ability to reproduce while increasing the likelihood that we develop life-threatening diseases. These health effects are things that no one wants to or should have to deal with. This is information that the public needs to know of because it impacts all of us every day. One of the main reasons why plastic pollution in Lake Erie is so concerning is that there is a significant lack of education and knowledge on the issue. When people talk about plastic polluting our water, we tend to think about sea turtles eating plastic bags or the giant patches of garbage that cover more than 600,000 square miles of the ocean. What many have not heard is that Lake Erie, the smallest Great Lake, contains just as much plastic as these giant ocean garbage patches. The first step to change is acknowledging the problem. It's very important that we share this concerning information with the public. One of our main objectives when we started this project was to gauge public knowledge regarding the issue on plastic pollution in Lake Erie. Through a preliminary survey, we quickly found some interesting and concerning trends. One of the most alarming findings was that 40% of respondents incorrectly believed that plastic is only a prevalent issue in bodies of salt water. We realized, based on these results, that we had the opportunity to make a real change. We've done our research and discovered a clear and significant problem. So, what's next? The first step is to educate the public. We can do this by connecting people to relevant information and teaching them about how plastic pollution in Lake Erie affects them. The more people recognize the issue, the more people we can inspire to make a change in Lake Erie. This will hopefully keep people engaged and motivate them to continue more sustainable practices, like following proper recycling protocols, using less single-use plastics, and supporting legislation against single-use plastics. We've created a plan to help you tackle this plastic problem. 8 tools for you to use to spread awareness and inspire positive change for Lake Erie. These include a web page, flyer, brochure, member talking points, email blast, and a social media campaign. Check out our webpage about plastic contamination and Lake Erie. This was the backbone of our project, and we designed the rest of the content to support and promote this webpage. We launched this informational, easy-to-read webpage, and it can be found under the Lake Erie Issues tab on the Lake Erie Foundation website. In order to keep the web page concise and easy to read, we have divided it into 3 main sections. The problem, which explains the abundance of plastic in Lake Erie. The second section is how it affects you, which covers how much plastic we ingest and why it's a health hazard. Finally, the third section is what you can do about it. Microplastics must be reduced for our health and the health of Lake Erie. We hope you will feel the same way and be moved to reconsider your consumption of single-use plastics. While we want to see a decrease of both supply and demand for single-use plastics, we know that this will take time. Help us on this path towards the ultimate goal of replacing single-use plastics with more sustainable options. We know that by educating and informing people about the use of single-use plastics, we can have a real positive impact on Lake Erie and the world. We look forward to hearing from you. To receive our brochure and detailed information, please visit our website, lakeeriefoundation.org.